going over all 5 guys. Number 1 guy I mentioned last night is Bobby Portis, and his explanation for Bobby Portis is this. His salary is $13.4 million with a $15.5 million player option in 27-28. He's 30 years old. He's 6'9", 250 pounds. And I think you just looking at his stats this year, almost 13 points a game, 47% from 3, and 6.5 rebounds in 23 minutes a game. Hunter lays out the irony in this choice, given Portis and Stewart's run during Detroit's second matchup against Milwaukee, but Portis is on pace to tie his career best from beyond the arc and is already fits the Pistons mentality. And I kind of outlined like why I would like a Bobby Portis trade if the Pistons were able to strike a deal with Milwaukee. Number 1, Bobby Portis to me just fits the Detroit Pistons culture. When I look at Bobby Portis, he just seems like a Piston. Like, we're looking for guys that aren't afraid to muck it up, not afraid to dive for loose balls, play defense, protect the paint. That's Bobby Portis to me. He's a true backup power forward. Now, I know like Tobias Harris is their starting power forward. And most nights it's a combination of sometimes it's Stu playing power forward. Sometimes you have Ron Holland or Javonte Green. But having a backup power forward in Bobby Portis out there with Isaiah Stewart together would just cause so much havoc out there, and I would absolutely love it. And Hunter mentioned it earlier. He's shooting 47% from 3. That's third best in the NBA right now. That's insane to have a guy that's shooting over 40% from 3 on good volume. I would absolutely love a Bobby Portis for the Detroit Pistons to use their trade exception. But I honestly think it really depends where Milwaukee is at. And I think that's the conversation I want to have, because Milwaukee right now currently is not in the playoff picture. They're 11th. They're sitting right outside that play-in tournament. There's been so many rumblings this year, I would say, with Giannis. Like, is he going to stay? Is he committed to Milwaukee? Does he want to trade? Giannis has said, he wants to stay in Milwaukee. It's all his agent doing all the talking behind the scenes with Shams Charania. Anytime Shams tweets, it's like, yeah, Giannis wants out. Giannis like, no, I want to stay. So really depends what Milwaukee wants to do. I've had my eye on Bobby Portis for quite some time. I remember talking about him last year with a friend of the show, Corey Woods, when we were kind of talking about, targeting Bobby Portis in a trade because he wasn't on a huge contract. He was shooting pretty good volume from 3 last season as well, but this year he's just taking it up a whole different level. I really like him as an option for the Pistons. I think he's a player that could easily be out there in a closing situation. Just imagining him and Isaiah Stewart off your bench, and you have like Ron Holland. Oh my God. Like you want to talk about like tough, gritty defensive second units. I don't think any team in the league would want to deal with Bobby Portis and Isaiah Stewart and Ron Holland off the bench. I would absolutely love to see Bobby Portis in a Detroit Pistons uniform. It'll be interesting to see what does happen with the Milwaukee Bucks, what they do at the trading deadline, because there's a lot of rumors about them possibly being linked to players like Zach LaVine, John Morant, just to keep Giannis happy. But keep an eye on Bobby Portis. You never really know what's going to happen in the Central Division with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the second player Hunter mentioned was Sam Hauser. Now, Sam Hauser's salary, like we have done on our trade targets that we did a podcast earlier this month, I've mentioned like the salary he's on. I think it's one of the best value contracts in the NBA, $10 million under contract until 28, 29, 28 years old, 6'7", 217 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. He's putting up 7.8 points a game on 38.6% three-point shooting, 3.6 rebounds a game in 22 minutes a game. Hauser has grown into a respectable rotational player with the Celtics and is a reliable three-point threat. The Wisconsin native is worth consideration from the Pistons front office, given his length and ability to thrive in his role under Joe Mazzulla. And I kind of gave my three reasons why I would like this move as well. It's another backup power forward option for the Detroit Pistons. Has a great contract and has playoff experience. Now, I think Sam Hauser is like one of those sneaky under the radar guys that doesn't really get talked about on a national level. Playing in Boston, obviously, a lot of the spotlight is going to be on Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, even Peyton Pritchard, former six man of the year. But Sam Hauser is just a really good rotational player for the Boston Celtics. But given where the Celtics are at right now, when Brad Stevens recently talked to the media, they're not like really too concerned about trying to shed salary. I would love a Sam Hauser. I just don't really know what Boston would want personally. Obviously, if they're trying to, stay below that luxury tax, being really close to the apron, we saw them shed a lot of salary this past summer with Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. But I'd be very surprised if Sam Hauser was dealt. But hey, you never know. It could be a sneaky under the radar option, as the Celtics probably like to improve their front court. Because I mean, you kind of look at their front court. Like Luka Garza is playing great, probably the best he's ever played in his career. Kata, who was a really good pickup by the Celtics as well, he's playing great. But I think the Celtics would definitely like to upgrade that front court if they could. But never know with Sam Hauser. You never really know. Now, the third option we're going to be talking about is a former Piston, played during the rebuild years, and it's Kelly Olynyk. He currently is with the San Antonio Spurs. He's on a $13.4 million contract. He's 34 years old, 7 foot, 240 pounds, putting up 3 points a game on 47% shooting from the field. He's only getting 10 minutes a game with the Spurs right now. While Olynyk has the least impressive numbers on this list, he also is averaging the fewest minutes. He's seemingly fallen out of the Spurs rotation and is the second most expensive option here. But the former Piston is a career 36.9% shooter from beyond the arc with a history of being a stretch big. Now, obviously, we didn't really get to see Kelly Olynyk play with Cade Cunningham too much, obviously, because he did get injured that year. But I think why I do like this idea for the Pistons as a buy low option is he's a good locker room vet. He's played for numerous teams across the NBA. And anything I hear about Kelly Olynyk is always very positive, from talking to reporters or talking to fans that have followed whatever team Kelly Olynyk is a part of. He's familiar with Cade Cunningham and some of the young core guys out there like Stu and those guys, and he can stretch the floor at either a power forward or center position. I do remember when Troy Weaver did sign him, I think a lot of us were saying like, hey, we need to stretch big, because we had played Mason Plumlee at starting center before Stu got that starting spot very early in the rebuild. We bring in Kelly Olynyk and then Cade gets hurt, right? But Kelly O, I think would definitely be a very I wouldn't say underwhelming move. I think he could have value. Like the 3 points a game in 10 minutes, I wouldn't actually pay too much attention to that, because I think if he were to get brought into Detroit, he would average more than 10 minutes a game, because I think JB would probably use him more as a power forward than a center, because you have three centers right now. He'd use him as a backup power forward to back up Tobias. And having a guy like that that can just pick and pop with the second unit and have more floor spacing with the second unit could add some value, but he's not really a guy that I would be particularly be looking at. But I could understand it from Hunter's perspective of adding a backup front court player that can spread from the outside and has been here before and does have some familiar with the organization. Now, another former Piston got Luke Kennard. Okay, so Luke Kennard is currently with the Atlanta Hawks. He's on an $11 million salary, 29 years old, 6'5", 206. This year at the Hawks, he's putting up almost 8 points a game, 47.5% from three, and 2.3 assists a game in 20.5 minutes. Kennard would be a low-risk option for the Pistons, considering he will be under an unrestricted free agent. this summer, excuse me. He was Detroit's lottery pick in 2017, and now he's leading the league in 3-point percentage, albeit on 3.3 attempts per game. Kennard's gravity would rival Duncan Robinson's, and he'd be a formidable floor spacer with the second unit. Now, why I like this idea, Luke Kennard's an elite shooter, elite 3-point shooter. We all know that. Like, that's the one thing, coming out of the draft that I think a lot of scouts had always kind of pointed at Luke Kennard with him. He's just gotten even better at it. He's been on several NBA teams since the Pistons did eventually trade him on draft night. He's a great playmaker. Like the 2.3 assists a game, some of the passes and some of the reads that Luke Kennard can make off the bench for the Detroit Pistons, I think would actually be pretty big, considering one, we need 3-point shooting, and two, you need a little bit of playmaking. And Luke Kennard can take on ball reps and set up plays and make some pretty decent reads, in my personal opinion. And he knows the organization pretty well. He's pretty familiar with the Detroit Pistons front office and the organization, because there are still some people that were there when Luke Kennard was drafted. And I'm talking about Arm Tellem. Arm Tellem was part of the Detroit Pistons front office when Stan Van Gundy did draft him. So there are some players that are not players, but there are some people that still work in this front office that are pretty familiar with Luke Kennard. Now, I think why Luke Kennard could actually be an option is the only reason why Luke Kennard signed with the Hawks is because Trae Young was recruiting him. Trae Young is no longer there. And obviously, the Hawks are just such a weird team since this trade. Like, the CJ McCollum trade has not really panned out. They're 1-3 since the trade, and CJ has kind of been very underwhelming at best. I like the Luke mention because, one, we need more 3-point shooting. Having another 3-point shooter like a Luke Kennard could definitely help. Two, the playmaking. We know that he can pass. We know he can facilitate. Obviously, like 2.3 assists a game is nothing to brag about by any means, but it is something. But I wouldn't really hate a Luke Kennard move by this organization. Now, the last player in this trade exception mentioned by Hunter is Max Christie. Now, if you guys watched my 29 trade targets from 29 NBA teams, you know that I actually had Max Christie as a trade target, and Hunter has him as a TPE target. His salary is 7.7 with a 8.8 player option in 27-28. 22 years old, 6'5", 190, putting up 12.3 points a game on 45.4% shooting from three, 3.4 rebounds a game, in 28.9 minutes per game with the Dallas Mavericks. Not only does Christie fit the Pistons timeline from a youth perspective, but he's also on pace for a career high from distance. Per Cleaning the Glass, Christie's 45.4% from distance ranks in the 95th percentile for wings across the league. He's a primary off-ball scorer with 50.6% off of his triples and catch-and-shoot attempts. Now, why I like Max Christie as well is great three-point shooter, only 22 years old, like Hunter had mentioned, has improved every season since he's been drafted in the NBA. And, like, if you kind of look at his trajectory, like, I think this is the type of trade that you would make and you would look very smart, because I think when you look at young players, the one thing you look at is improvement, and he's improved every year he's been in the NBA, from barely scoring his rookie season to being a 12-point per game scorer. Like, could he go from 12 to 15 to, eventually maybe closer to 17, 18? I think that's the conversation I would have, and I would buy stock on a Max Christie. I think a lot of people forget, like, he was part of the Luka Doncic trade that the Lakers sent over. And he's been a guy that I've been very impressed with. Don't know where Dallas' season is particularly going. Like, there's rumblings that Kyrie Irving might come back. I personally think he shouldn't. Anthony Davis is injured again, and the Dallas has kind of got back to their losing ways. They may look to try to get another high draft pick, because outside of this year, they won't have a draft pick for several years. maybe they can get a more lottery luck and get into the lottery, and maybe they would be more open to trading Max Christie to a team that could use his services. And being 22 years old, shooting 45% from three, I think it could definitely be a very, very smart option for the Detroit Pistons. But I mean, those are all five trade exception targets that Hunter did have. Again, Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks, love that. Sam Hauser from the Celtics, Kelly Olynyk from the Spurs, Luke Kennard from the Atlanta Hawks, and Max Christie from the Dallas Mavericks.